welcome back to the channel. My name's Harris and today I present to you my Civic Type R. So I bought this car because it's the most hated Civic Type R. I don't really understand why. I think it looks great, I think it drives amazingly, and I think it does everything a Type R should do. But because of the Jeremy Clarkson review of this car, everyone hates it and they haven't actually driven the car to give their opinion. So I thought, let me buy it and let me see what it's actually like. Now, in my opinion, it handles way better than an EP3. I don't get how people are saying EP3s handle better. The steering on this is so much more sharp, so much more precise. I will say it doesn't feel as light of a car. It doesn't feel as chuckable or as like playful in that way, but it feels more planted, it feels more serious of a car. It feels like I could put more power through the front wheels of this and have less issues. Whereas with the EP3, it feels like you're in a tin can, everything's rattling, everything's shaking. You know, you can make this car like that if you want. You know, get a straight through exhaust, decap, whatever you want, it will do the same thing. It will make the loud noises, it will make all the right sounds. But it also handles a bit more grown up, a bit more mature. And that spreads into the interior as well. So let's show you the interior. I'm just going to turn the lights on so you can see the interior a bit better. So you've got the same basic red interior with the Type R. Can I see everything? Mm-hmm. So you've obviously got steering wheel, whatever. There are some issues. As soon as you put the key in, it just makes this weird noise. I don't understand why. You have to turn the ignition on. Then it makes another bong. What's that all about? Yeah, I think that's one thing that Jeremy Clarkson was right about. The bongs are a bit of a wind-up. But everything else from the interior is crazy. So you've got so actually I need to mention this is a GT spec, so it's a slightly higher spec than your like base model. So that means you get AC, you get a cooled glove box. A cooled glove box. Range Rovers don't have that, unless you spec them. It's got auto wipers, auto headlights. Now, I think there's Golf Rs out there that don't have auto wipers. That's a 40 grand car. This is like, what, sub 5 grand, and you're getting all that. Let's show them the seats as well. Show them the seats, man. That is the party piece. Yeah, the whole thing, the whole shebang. Personally, this is one of the best interiors of any car I've ever been in, yeah? I'm not talking about quality, obviously, you know, it's got some plastics, whatever, but what do you expect? It's a cheap car. When this launched, it was under 20 grand. So what more can you ask for from a car? Let's talk about the design. Design-wise, it's the egg shape, the UFO shape, whatever you want to call it. I think it looks great. If you lower it, maybe put some different rims, spacers, it just looks perfect. The EP3 is more of a bread shape or bread van type of shape. Don't get me wrong, EP3s look great, but this is a more striking design. It's more memorable. You know, everyone talks about this car for its looks, whereas with the EP3, everyone says it's more of a raw driving experience. Now, I've driven a lot of cars, and when people say raw, what they actually mean is it feels like it hasn't been built properly. It feels like it's rattling, everything's shaking, noisy as anything. That's what they mean when they say it's raw. Do I think that's bad? No, of course not. There's a time and a place for it though. You don't want that every day. You don't want that on your way to work. You don't want that when you're picking up your kids from school. That's where this comes in. It's annoying when you want it to be, so it's loud, it's a bit uncomfortable when you want it to be, but if you just want to chill, it can also do that. Let's talk about the suspension. This is something else everyone loves to slate the fn2s for. It's got a rear beam. They took away the independent rear suspension. Oh no. Now what does that actually mean for a normal person? Nothing really. It is a bit less comfortable than the EP3, I'll give it that. And when I say less comfortable, I mean the suspension isn't as soft. So because the suspension isn't as soft as the EP3, it does feel a bit more serious, but I kind of like a harder suspension. It's still not as hard as my Fiesta suspension, which is on lowering springs. But what you have to remember is this is a completely standard car. No exhaust mods, no suspension mods, nothing. The only thing it does have is an engine mount, and I think a gearbox mount as well. Those are the only two things on the car that are not factory. But yeah, so it's not as comfortable, not as compliant maybe on back roads, but it's still just as exciting of a drive. You know, I'll take you out on a drive later, but VTEC engages a bit lower, so you get your peak power a bit sooner as well, and I think I prefer that because on the EP3, you you really have to wait until you hit VTEC, which is at, I think, about 6k RPM, whereas this is lower to 5k. So it's a bit more accessible, or I think it's 4.5 and 5.5 for the EP3. So it's a bit more accessible, there's a bit more low down torque. You know, I jumped in this car thinking there's going to be no torque, but there actually is. Like, you can put it into second gear at 10 miles an hour and it's fine, it just keeps rolling, it's happy, it's not like stuttering or juddering or anything. Whereas in my ST, it will start juddering if you put it into second too soon. But yeah, everything about this car that I've heard so far, I'm not really seeing it's true. For an older person, maybe it's a bit uncomfortable, but most people driving this car, they're going to be under 30. Even if they are 30, they probably love Hondas. They don't give a shit what it drives like. They're going to put coilovers on anyway. You know, at this stage, people aren't buying these cars as a luxury car. They're buying them, they're going to track them, they're going to abuse them. That's the great thing with Hondas. They're reliable. That K20 engine, perfect. You know, they don't really go wrong. When you Right, so we're driving the car, fn2 Civic Type R. Obviously there's been a lot of negative press around this car, but I think a lot of it is unjustified. However, I have been singing the praises of this car so far, but there are some minor issues that still have to be addressed. Firstly, I don't know if you can see on the rear window, there's that wing that just goes across. Now, in my opinion, it does affect the drive a little bit. It makes it harder to maneuver. You can't really see out the back properly because it's split in such a weird way. Also, the EP3 is a bit easier to drive in the sense that you can position the car on the road a bit more easily. Parking's easier. The dimensions of this car, I just don't think I'm used to it yet. So those are just minor things. But the controls, I much prefer the controls. I can't really compare the gear shift to my EP3 because that had a short shifter, but I do prefer the feel of this. It's completely standard, but I still prefer it. I'm surprised with how nippy it does feel. It's not the quickest thing on earth. My Fiesta, which is stage 2, is like miles quicker than this. And to be fair, I think it was quicker than my EP3, which is running about 250 brake as well. But the thing to remember with Hondas is the power delivery is so different to any other car. You can't just plant your foot at 2000 RPM and it pushes you back in your seat. That's just not what happens with Hondas. You have to be in the right power band, you have to be in the right rev, right gear, and it's only really quick in VTEC. But it is a nice sensation. It goes from like no power, and then bah, 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 bah. It's just, that's what Hondas are about, and it's a different type of character with the car. See, it's gripping. And when you want some fun, it does move. I don't know how people say this is slow. This is a very, very fun car. I watched the Jeremy Clarkson review of this. He said that it understeers. You know, it's raining right now, it's wet. You saw me push it around that bend. It was not understeering, it was gripping. I think maybe the tyres on his car were just rubbish. Let's see what we can do here.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Right, so you're probably wondering what happened there. I snapped the drive shaft. At first I thought maybe it was the gearbox. I was literally thinking what was going on just as I shifted into second gear, heard the bang. I was processing my emotions, just thinking what the hell have I done and how much is it going to cost? That's the first thing I thought, shit, how much is this going to cost? Luckily, it was just the drive shaft. I managed to pull over. I got this video. You can see that the drive shaft is completely snapped. It's just shagged to bits, really. And this highlights an important point with fn2s and EP3s. The drive shafts are a weak point. Another weak point are the synchros on the gearbox, particularly second and third gears. But overall, as long as you don't, shift really quickly, try and do the DMO shifts, your synchros won't go out. I fixed it, so it's been a few days. I was actually on holiday, got back. So when that happened, I had a flight in the morning. I was like, yeah, let me quickly go and bang this video out. And then, yeah, that happened. So I had to call recovery, called up my Jamaican recovery guy. I told him Civic Type R. As soon as I said that, he was like, oh, I know what you did. First to second gear, bang. That's the drive shaft gone, isn't it? I was like, yeah, how did you know? Turns out he's had a few of them. He's had fn2s, EP3s. He loves them as well. He's had about 5 or 6. But yeah, got it straight to the garage, fixed within a few days. I put uprated JNR drive shaft in, so for the next owner, shouldn't happen. I'm used to, like, the Fiesta takes that type of abuse, but with a 16-year-old car, you have to realise small things like that will happen. It's not really that big of a deal. Label was 150, which is okay, but the guy I give it to, I've been going to him for years, and I kind of trust him with my cars. JNR, I think their drive shafts are about £80 each. The EP3 ones are a bit cheaper. But yeah, that's basically what happened. You live and you learn. But yeah, that's basically it. I was actually about to mark it up for sale just before that happened. But then that happened. I've marked it up for sale now. So yeah, another thing, if you see me driving cars on this channel, it's probably for sale. Not because like I'm selling it on purpose, but everything's for sale. So if you're interested, message me. Like the last guy, the EP3, the silver one, someone actually messaged me the other day. He bought it just recently. Got in contact with him. It's crazy how the internet works. Found me off YouTube, saw the video, bought the car the next day. But yeah, so if you're interested, let me know. I've got like a spec sheet on Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree, like all the normal stuff. This video wasn't really like an advert for it. I mean, I did break it, but just after saying how reliable it is. It is still reliable, like the engine and gearbox. It is a reliable car. It's just, well, you saw what I did. It was my fault, really. I can't really blame the car. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. My pockets are hurt, so share this video about, like it, and maybe when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I might be able to make enough money to cover the cost of making this video. So thank you, and bye.